Counting carbs doesn't work. It's a myth. And everyone's doing it, everyone's trying it, but no one is succeeding. And rather than trying to preach and convince you that that is actually the case, what I think I'll just walk you through a few examples and then we'll see where it falls flat. So we've all heard an apple a day keeps the doctor away. And so diabetics are still eating apples and just injecting insulin to cover them up. And if you have been eating apples for a long time, and if you are diabetic, you know that there is for apples, just like for everything else, there is a range. So a small apple is going to be 10 grams of carbs, a bigger apple, 20 grams of carbs, 30 grams of carbs. And looking at your apple you've got there, your little nice apple, you have to sort of figure out, well, is it a 20-gram apple, a small, tiny apple, or is it a 30-gram apple? Or maybe it's an oversized apple and it's 35. Or maybe it's in the middle of the range, it's 25 grams of carbs. And so let's say you decide it's a 27-gram apple, right? But in reality, it's really small, and it's a 20-gram apple. And so now you're off by 7 grams, and you're carb counting. And so what does that mean? Well, for a 170-pound person, a typical 170-pound person, every gram of glucose, of carbs, that you account or don't account for will raise your sugar by your blood glucose by about 5 milligrams per deciliter. So now if you thought it was a 27-gram apple and it was really a 20-gram apple and you gave yourself enough insulin for a 27-gram apple, well, guess what? You have a 7-gram difference, 7 times 5, 35, and now your sugar will drop by 35. And so instead of feeling perfect, you'll be low, you'll feel horrible, you'll have to eat again, your sugar will probably spike again. If you're like most diabetics, you'll probably overeat, and you're getting into this vicious cycle of lows and highs. And on the same token, if you actually thought that the apple was 20 grams and it's 27 grams, now you're going up by 35. And instead of being, let's say, at 100, you're at 135. And again, that will mess you up because it will induce hunger, it will induce cravings, and it's just not a place where you want to be. And even if you were carrying around the scale and you were actually able to tell this is exactly 22.5 grams and you were able to balance yourself for that, you will still not be able to do it precisely and know exactly how much carbs that apple has, because obviously, just like everything in nature, there's a range of sweetness and there's a range of all of the different variables that actually make up that apple. But I know what you're thinking, right? It's an apple. It doesn't have a nutrition label. I'm not eating that. I'm eating all of the things that have this little white bar that tells me this thing's got 30 grams of carbs. Okay, fair enough. You grabbed a snack bar from Walgreens and it's got exactly 30 grams of carbs. So you're going to give yourself enough insulin for 30 grams of carbs and you think you're set, right? Well, what could go wrong? So just like the apple had a range of all of the different things that make up its nutritional content, it's exactly the same for any other food, whether it's packaged or not. And the people who make up nutritional labels understand that. And what you may not know is that for every number you see on that nutritional label, there's a range. And that range is 20% up and 20% down. And so if you see a 30-gram carb count, the actual number could fall anywhere between 24 and 36. And so now if you bolus yourself for exactly 30 and the exact number is actually 36, well, guess what? 6 times 5, 30 milligram difference right there. And again, you're high or you're low. And one thing you have to realize is that I just gave you 2 really small examples. 30 grams of carbs. If you're eating carbs every day and you're eating a dinner with pasta or potatoes, well, that's 100 grams of carbs right there. And you look at that nutrition fact on the box of the pasta box, and you'll think you're counting carbs, but 20% difference on 100 grams, that's 20 grams of carbs. times 5, 100. So now you could be going down 100 or going up 100. And that's where most diabetics go wrong on a daily basis. They think they are counting carbs, they think they are doing everything correctly, but they're working with variables that they have no control over and that are absolutely unpredictable. And so the only real way to count carbs is to not count them. You cannot count carbs, and you do not want to do it. So the only thing that you can count are things that are small. So if you're eating a cup of spinach, it's only got 2 grams of carbs. So even if the nutritional label is off, and even if you really mess up and you thought you ate a cup of spinach and you really ate 2 cups of spinach, that's still only 2 grams of difference. That's still, just a few grams of difference. So those few grams will raise your sugar by 10, 20, maybe 30 in some examples, but you'll never have those spikes like you would have with a plate of pasta where 20% of 100 milligram difference, bam, you're high or you're really hypoglycemic. So that is the secret sauce. That is the truth that for whatever reason no one is talking about, and people are still trying to count carbs, even though when you ask anyone who's actually been able to control their sugars, they'll tell you that this is their secret, that this is the thing that makes it all work.